Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. It is Thursday, January 20th at 10:29. Purdue has lost to IU. If you come on this feed, this site, this channel very often, you know that I predicted Purdue was going to lose. And some of it was gut feeling, some of it just kind of being logical that sports are cyclical, and Purdue was due to lose a game versus IU. Some, I don't know if you say magical or whatever, crappy things happen in Assembly Hall, and this game was no exception. Um, but it wasn't like some of the games we've seen at IU in the past where just mysterious foul calls mounted up. I mean, Purdue got into foul trouble early, but that really wasn't the difference maker. The difference maker to me, more than anything, I mean, like literally on the Boiled Sports intra, you know, conversation, we have a text thread we go through and we talk about, well, this could be the reason that this could be the reason they lost, or this could be the reason they lost. I mean, you could point like five things that earned Purdue this loss. Purdue got exactly what they deserved, and that was an L. Um, I'm not a person who thinks the sky is falling after this game. I'm past that. The reason I'm past that is the things that I've seen already this season have already shown me the deficiencies that Purdue has, and these deficiencies keep rearing their head. It happened versus Rutgers. It happened versus NC State. It happened versus Wisconsin. It happened versus Nichols, and it happened versus IU. The biggest one we see over and over and over is that Purdue's on-ball defense, Purdue's guards, um, defending a guy who's scoring or dynamic or whatever, are uh, they're deficient. Their defense looks horrible, and this is funny to watch as a Purdue fan because we've for years seen really good defenses doing a good job and having the ability to shut a team down at the end. But over and over and over again, when Purdue's needed a stop this year, when a guy has been hot, they haven't been able to do it. The parallels of this game, the Wisconsin game, and the Rutgers game are pretty easy to draw. You have one guy who is dominating the entire game, and that one guy at the end of the game, Purdue couldn't do anything about him scoring. The really crappy thing in this one is they had the chance to close this game out just with a rebound, or they could have done a lot of things. And IU went for the win, which I respect a lot. The first time when Finney shot the three and missed it, and then they got the ball out of bounds, and I tweeted they're going to go for the win again. And of course they did, and they put the ball back in Finney's hands, and this time he hits it. So it was extremely fitting that Purdue loses the game that way because Finney was the problem all day for Purdue. There are other problems though. One of the big problems that this is two straight games where Trey Williams has been just off, and he's not a jump shooter. That's the thing. It's weird when a guy's off like this. He's missing badly in the blocks. He's not taking contact well, which has been kind of his strength his whole career. He's not he's not effective right now. And the funny thing is he's way off. He had an air ball from about 5 or 6 feet out on a turnaround in the closing minutes, which was a big air ball. Jaden Ivey tried to do everything he could in the second half. And here's another thing if you want to look at just different things that caused this loss. Jaden Ivey lost his cool completely. IU's atmosphere was too much for him to take. IU's Galloway, who I'm sure he's annoying. He looks annoying. He wears lip gloss all the time and has fancy hair, but I'm sure he's annoying to play. And Ivy kind of made a statement after the first half when he lost his cool. But first, before he made that great statement, he decided to shove him down for no good reason with a ref right in front of him. He's lucky he didn't get thrown out of the game because I think some refs, they could have done that if they really wanted to, but they chose not to throw him out right then, but they gave him a flagrant. Funny thing is that specific play really didn't hurt Purdue all that much because I think IU came down. They had two shots and the ball, and they came away with 1 point from that possession. But that was a fulcrum point. If you really look at the trajectory of the game after that, IU went on a run. Ivy was out of the game with his second foul. Painter wasn't going to put him back in for multiple reasons. And IU built a lead. And I think they got up to double digits. Then Purdue chopped it down to 9 or something before the end of the half. Purdue came out in the second half. Ivy right away cut that lead down with 3-point shots, and I think Sash had one. But the same problems kept coming up, and that is that defense is just atrocious. Purdue's inability to stop a guard who is hot or is looking for a shot or whatever I want to say. The reason a lot of guards get hot versus Purdue is because they're so bad rotating on the three on the pick. They go the wrong way every time around those picks. They seem to go on the underside, which leaves them open, and then they get a hand in the face after the ball's away, which is really bad defense. I want to look at some stats too. Okay, another thing, if we want to say another reason Purdue lost, free throw shooting is horrible. And we've talked about this 3 or 4 times after games that you play with fire when you don't hit free throws, but Zach Edey's free throw shooting was abysmal. And we'll talk about this. I haven't looked at the stats yet, so I'll look at them really quickly. I'll react to them. I already know most of what I'm going to see, but maybe there'll be some surprises that make me want to vomit. Let's look at that real quick. I'll walk through them with you guys. So final score, of course, 68-65. Purdue falls to 15-3. They're 4th in the nation. I don't care. Let me make this clear. I don't care about the individual losses. What I care about is the mounting losses and the fact they're losing to teams that aren't very good, and this hurts their seeding. That's it for me. Like, to me, I always wanted this team to just be peaking in March. But if you peak in March and you get like a 6 seed in the tournament, it's all going to be for naught because you're going to run into a buzzsaw, a team with a very dynamic scorer again, who Purdue will struggle mightily against. And sure, it's obvious that Ivy can turn it on and off, but Ivy had a half where he was almost ineffective. I think he had 2 points in the first half and then 19 in the second. He's done this like 3 or 4 times where you've seen a big half and then nothing, or nothing and then a big half. This has happened over and over. There are lots of things you can point out to why Purdue lost this game. If you're making excuses for why they lost, like, well, if this would have happened, they would have lost. I don't care. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it on Twitter. I don't want to hear it anyplace else. Purdue deserved to lose, so they lost. IU improves to 14-4. That gap's not that big between Purdue and IU. Purdue's best wins in the season. Let's look at this. This is important. This is something I've been thinking about a lot. Purdue's best wins of the season are Villanova and Illinois. Purdue doesn't have a big, deep bench of quality wins because the North Carolina game that I think we all thought was bigger than it was, North Carolina's bad, and they're showing it over and over and over. Rutgers is an okay loss right now because they've stolen a couple good games, but it's not a great loss, but it's an okay loss. IU is going to be a tournament team, clearly, if not a decent tournament team, but they're going to be a tournament team. This is the first time they've been able to win one of these games that they lost the lead. They've done it over and over where they lose a lead and then the game finally ends with IU losing. Purdue couldn't get over the hump. Every time they got near the hump, they would roll backwards. I kept saying that on Twitter. I was like, dagnabbit, they got to get over the hump. But the killer instinct is not there with this team. The killer instinct seems to be with one guy in a game. Sometimes it's Williams and sometimes it's Ivy, but we really haven't seen this entire team play a good game in how long? 2 months? And so the thing that we all loved about this team so much, the depth, it's not a thing anymore. Let's look, and I'll show you the proof right here. So the starting 5 combines, they got 13, 12, 21, 8, and 7. Great. The next 5 on the bench, 2, 2, 0, 0, 0. The offense isn't there. And then on top of that, many of those guys that are coming off the bench, their defense is just crap. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. It was great that they played good defense for 2 straight games. Really, that's what they did. But this game, they were right back to being an awful defensive team. Okay, so Gillis played solid. Gillis has played solid. 3 for 4 from 3. He's been huge in keeping Purdue in games. He really helped them scratch and claw and get back in the game. 13 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists. Edey, 12 points, 9 rebounds. That's excellent. 2 for 7 free throws. And I think 2 or 3 of those were front ends of 1-and-1s. Purdue finishes the game 41.2% from the free throw line, 7 of 17. There, you don't deserve to win. Right there, that's enough. So we could say right there, that's enough. Now let's go further because we talked about this. Ivy played a good game, 21 points. He went 5 of 7 from the free throw line. I think he missed a couple important ones, but 5 of 7, by far one of the best free throw shooters on the team because Purdue shot the ball at crap. He went, let's see, Ivy went 2 for 6 from deep. He played a solid game. I mean, like, he tried to carry him back. I can't be too angry at that. I just wish he'd put two halves together. I keep saying this. If he put two halves together, Purdue's going to go through a team and beat them by like 30 like they did in Nebraska, but it'll be a respectable team. I really believe he'll do that this season. He'll get like 35 points, have two good halves, and Purdue will beat somebody by 30. I think it'll happen. Stefanovic, 3 for 10 from the field, 1 for 7 from 3. 3 rebounds. Let's see. How about this? How about another senior? Trey Williams, 15 minutes of action, 2 points, 6 rebounds, 4 turnovers. And I would have given him a 5th turnover. I don't know how he only gets credit for 4 turnovers. Other guys, Newman, Morton, Hunter. They all had a turnover. They all played well. Hunter played for 16 minutes, but Hunter, 0 points, 0 assists, 0 steals, a rebound. So when you have seniors that disappear in big games that they know are important, that matters, right? And on the other side, you had IU scratching and fighting and clawing for everything they had. Good on IU. They lose Trace Jackson Davis multiple times to foul trouble. He was out of the game. He only played 11 total minutes, and they still found a way because Rob Finney was left alone time and time again. He was making shots, but at some point, somebody's got to say, all right, this guy's not going to score. I'm going to do something about it. Purdue couldn't do it. He looked like Michael Jordan. And it's not because he's Michael Jordan. It's because this is what Purdue does versus teams. We've seen it over and over again. Congrats, Rob Finney. Congrats, IU. They broke the streak at 9. That's great. I don't think I'll have a lot of people watching this tonight, but if you're watching, thanks for watching. Thanks to our sponsors, Martin Vintage, Gridiron Metalworks, and AJ's. Appreciate you guys. This is a tough thing to sponsor because I'm so pissed. Like I said, I thought they were going to lose, and I still am angry. And I tried to wait a little while just to cool off, but I didn't cool off enough. And like I said, losing to IU, they were due. Purdue was due to lose to IU. The problem that I have is the losses are starting to mount, and it's going to hurt their seeding. I think they're playing with fire, and that's my big thing. I just want to look towards March and see what's happening. But before March, there's a big process in front of there. There's a lot of games left, and Purdue doesn't seem to be progressing in a linear fashion, meaning the defense isn't getting better. The effort is inconsistent. I mean, IU, let's see. Purdue out-rebounded IU. I'm shocked at that. 39-30, Purdue out-rebounds IU. But it felt like at the end, Purdue really wasn't doing a great job rebounding. IU was scrappy. They played defense. They extended all the way out. They made it difficult on Purdue's guards. They were the opposite of Purdue because it was like ball pressure, guys away from the ball, defending passing lanes. They were great. Their defense was excellent. So that's about it. Wow, a lot of comments here. I'm surprised we had that many people live, but wow, a lot of people here. People say it's time to PS96 PKT says time to restart the streak. I don't think there's going to be another streak starting, just because it'd be highly unlikely with the team next year. I'm not going to say they're being a full rebuild, but you're going to have a lot of freshmen that are being relied upon. So that's going to be a tough thing. I think 2 or 3 you're going to have at least 3 freshmen that if they're not starting, they're playing significant minutes. So it's going to be harder. So I wanted this streak to go till next year, but it didn't work out. 9 wins is pretty good. Historically, like I said, that's like the 2nd or 3rd longest winning streak for Purdue. The longest winning streak in the series is IU at 13, and Purdue had 12. So it's a pretty good streak, especially in this era. Let's see. Yeah, Peyton Slater is a great point. Ivy pushing Galloway reminded me a lot of Payne hitting Stefanovic in the face in the Illinois game. We went on a big run after Payne hit Stefanovic, and now you went on a big run after Ivy pushed Galloway. Completely agree. And I think the parallels, there's another parallel, and that is it was just a frustration play, and it wasn't a basketball play. And that's why I think that was so important. Like, I thought they could legitimately throw Ivy out of the game at that point. I mean, it wasn't a fist. I mean, it was not that hard of a push. And Galloway is an amazing actor. He dove like hell, and that's what he does, though. I mean, he's like Brian Cardinal without the talent and with lip gloss. So good on IU for having a guy like that, because IU fans love him. He's not a good basketball player. Cardinal was a good basketball player, but he's a guy that gets under people's skin. So that's important. And they're transitioning and trying to be a team that's grittier and works harder. So they looked like it. They outworked Purdue today. Let's see. Anything else? A lot of comments on here. It's hard to sift through them. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. And hopefully Purdue can figure some things out. But I think these things that they need to figure out, they needed to start showing that they were figuring it out earlier. And I don't know how many wake-up calls you can get before you see that you have a major problem and you got to do something about it. This defense is in shambles, and maybe there's nothing they can do about it just because the roster is what it is. The problem that I have with that is not that Isaiah Thompson isn't the best defender or that even Ethan Morton isn't the best defender, because those two guys, like Thompson's small and Morton isn't the quickest guy laterally. Eric Hunter is absolutely essential to Purdue's defense. And when he is not playing the way he did 2 years ago, Purdue's in big trouble. They show it over and over and over. So if there's going to be a cure to this, it's going to be Eric Hunter playing defense. Ivy's doing everything he can now, by the way, on defense. He looks like a different guy. He's got to keep his wits about him, because there's going to be more games that are frustrating, more road games that are hostile. It's going to happen again and again. Can't lose his cool like that. If he does that, I mean, here's the thing. I think him losing his cool showed a lot. You had a bunch of guys that had some problems keeping their heads. That's pretty obvious. So, but onward and upward. The next game, Purdue will play. I'm a little scrambled here. Purdue plays Northwestern on the 23rd at 1 p.m. So that's on Saturday, and that's a good chance to get back on track. But Northwestern has just beaten somebody. I can't remember who it was noteworthy. Then they got at Iowa, very tough place to play, versus Ohio State, then at Minnesota. I always try to break the season down into a series of like 4-game, stanzas. I think it's easier to look at it that way because it's such a gauntlet. But Purdue has a lot to improve. That's all I can say. A lot to improve. For a team that's 4th best in the nation, they're going to drop after this one. Mike Woodson before the game said this, I'm not selling the players on, what did he say? I'm not selling the players on this being a big game or rivalry. I'm just telling them this is just one game. And he's full of crap. He either is a liar or he was lying in that case to the media. I think it's just the latter there. I think he was just trying to not make it into a big deal publicly, and I think it was a huge deal to him. I think they saw it was a huge deal to him. They played with bigger energy. Painter played it close to the vest, was even keel pretty much. And Purdue, when they got into that Shark Tank, they acted like the pressure was on them and they hadn't done it. Let's really think about how many tough road games Purdue's played in. Like, they played Illinois and they did a really good job fighting off a hostile crowd, but they haven't played in a ton of them. And when they have, it's been tough on them. Rutgers was tough on them, and that's not a tough place. So road games are going to be hard for this team simply because you have a lot of guys that have not played a lot of road games. And then on top of that, you have seniors that are disappearing. I keep saying the same thing because that's what's killing me more than anything. And I'm sure it kills those guys. I think those guys are competitors. I think Trey Williams having 2 straight games where he looks like dog crap probably bothers him. Wow, I'm up near 20 minutes. Have a great evening. Thanks for sticking around if you're listening or watching. Appreciate it. It's a tough thing to do if you're a Purdue fan. If you're an IU fan, welcome. Congratulations. Have a good evening. Talk to you soon. God bless you. Hammer down.